Just waiting for people to get here. Hello, Christy. Hey, Andrea. Hey, Jenna. So, going live today on Gossip. Nothing is new. I know we'll get that question a million times now. People asking what happened. Nothing new has happened. Just giving this opportunity for people to ask questions or make comments. Oh, and there's Courtney asking what I was just saying. What are we discussing today? Open to what you guys want to discuss. So, hello, Pamela and Kathy and Tanya. So, what do y'all want to talk about? The questions that you have that maybe I can answer, or Christy is on and she can answer. So, I guess while waiting for any questions or comments you have, I haven't really been on the page much today, other than going through and approving new members when I have the chance. I was doing a lot of work today. So, but I did see that the moderators were dealing with some issue where one poster felt they were being bullied by another. And so what I want to state is, we don't tolerate cyber bullies, okay? It's okay for you guys to disagree on something. And so you have to know that, especially in a case like this, there's going to be people that are going to think this thing and you think the other. As long as both sides believe in these guys' innocence, we're not going to cater to anybody who's going to go, well, if he did it, blah, blah, blah. So please be respectful of one another when you're disagreeing. You know that a lot of people that want to look into this case want facts. And so a lot of people know a lot of different places to go to dig stuff up. And I get it when people want proof. So just try to be respectful of one another and no name calling or, the whole bullying thing. But you can disagree and state your case on why you think this, and the other person can state why they think that. So, and I know some people have thin skin. Trust me, I've dealt with a whole lot just in the making a murderer thing itself, where I'm sure some of you, if you've been around here for a while, you know some of the things that myself and Amy have dealt with. And, it went beyond people just calling us names on social media. If it was just name calling, I could care less. But people literally contacted the Attorney General's office and my local police department and file false claims against me. So it got really ugly. Oh, and so now I see the person who was talking, saying they were being bullied, just claimed they left the group. So, but anyway, for the rest of you, it's okay to have a discussion and disagree with each other on things, but don't attack. All right, let me scroll down and see if anybody has any question. Courtney says, what's the stuff with Guy demolition on his garage? Oh, the Zipper? Yeah, so George Zipper's garage was torn down and a new one built after Teresa had been there. It's been a long time since I've thought about it, so I don't recall when that was. But I do have It's probably in Stephen Avery Project photo album somewhere. I did go to the Zipper home and I had taken pictures of it. So I took pictures of the new garage. Hey, Kate, glad you're here. Marge, what is next for Stephen? What can Kathleen do for him? Or is it over now? Far from over. Stephen, Kathleen will be filing in the Court of Appeals or Circuit Court of Appeals. I never remember what any of this stuff is called, on December 20th. So it's still going. Kevin says, is any of the administrators on this page to be at the courthouse when Kathleen files on or before December 20th deadline to file? Maybe live stream from the courthouse, get a word with Kathleen. I haven't thought about it. It really seems silly for me to go to Manitowoc when Kathleen's office is literally 5 minutes from my house. But it's a possibility. As I've said on here before, I work in politics. And so my mind has just been on the November 6th election, and I haven't really thought past November 6th right now. But yeah, Kevin, that's something definitely we can do something with. So remind me about it after the election, and then I will look into that. Maybe I'll even reach out to Kathleen and see if I can find out for sure, because she has to file by the 20th. I know she's even said she'll file on the 20th. I haven't even looked at that. Is that a Friday? Because she typically files on a Friday. So yeah, okay. So remind me, please. Diane, have they ever conducted any searches of the property where the trucker spotted the RAV? Well, Kathleen's been there, because if you've seen her recreation video, which we have posted on here, they're there at that spot. And then I'm talked about after the election, I'm going to go up there at some point, and I'm going to go to all those places and record them for y'all. Happy Monday, Michelle. Hello to everybody saying hello. Kathy is saying, what is the info about the white Jeep? Well, there is an article. Oh, sorry, now I'm yawning. Was it a Rolling Stone article? I can't remember. And so there's a neighbor that said he saw the RAV4 driving towards the quarry, right? And there was a white Jeep following it. So people keep trying to figure out who owned the white Jeep, a white Jeep. And I've never seen anything concrete. You know, I know people have said Colborne had a white Jeep then, but I don't know. Tiffany says, I just recently started seeing SAP post again after a year or so. And just so people know too, now that I just said SAP, Curtis Bussey is who started the Stephen Avery project. I took it over from him about 2 years ago now, when he needed to make his family a priority. This is a lot of work to run this Facebook page. And so he's the one that called it Stephen Avery Project, which makes the initials SAP, also SAP, which had it been me, I wouldn't have named it that, because it's just an opening for guilters to make fun and call Stephen a SAP. But yeah, I know Facebook does weird things where sometimes you see stuff and sometimes you don't. Christy says, didn't his grandson commit suicide in the old garage or something like that? No, because the grandson committed suicide, I believe, within the last year, Jason Zipperer. And it was Jason Zipperer's car that was for sale that Teresa went there to take a picture of. And the garage was rebuilt before then. Tristan says, why did Zipperer's wife testify, but he didn't? If you read the documents at stephenaverycase.org, O-R-G, you will see everybody was afraid of George Zipperer. Where even the cops talk about that they didn't want to go there and talk to him. He was a mean, crazy man. And so, like, when they went there and questioned him, at one point he talked about that Teresa's a trespasser and he wants her arrested, and that if she came on his property, he'd have his dog eat her. So, and that's where I believe the Zipperer photo shoot was a hustle shot. So maybe George Zipperer didn't realize she was coming, even though he wasn't there when. So George Zipperer wasn't there when Teresa was. It was only the wife. So that's why the wife would testify too, and George wouldn't. Laura mailed her first letters today to Stephen and Brendan. Well, thank you very much. I do know somebody, actually it's over here on my other screen, that Christy had posted it, that Zellner tweeted a letter from Stephen where he said, most days are good unless I hear a country song playing and I feel sad for a while, but I tell myself to go back to the good times. I read all the letters and look at the pictures and I feel better when I imagine myself being free, talking and visiting with my family and friends. I read every letter I receive. So yes, please, try to brighten his day. Laura says, I am a psychic medium and I really want to go out there at some point and see what I can pick up. Well, it'll be interesting to see what you find. So let us know if you ever do that. What is this that I'm just being sorry? Marion Calvin says, one of the biggest things to me is sworn affidavits from officers regarding what day the key was found and who found it, contradicting what they testified to in court, such as the affidavits saying it was found a different day other than the day they said it was found in court, and they said it was found by the officer who testified that he didn't search the bedroom. All he did was bag evidence. Okay, hold on. Closing that popped up on my other thing. Yeah, there's so many confusing things about who was on the property and who saw this and who saw that. So, Amy Jo, just curious if you met Kathleen Zellner. I just watched a documentary on her on the ID channel. Amazing lady. I've only met her once, and that was at, now I'm going to do what I did before and show you my boobs, at Melissa Kaluzinski's one of her hearings. Kathleen was there to argue on Melissa's behalf, and Erin Moriarty from 48 Hours was also there, and all the press was there. And literally all I said to her is, I have these free Melissa wristbands. And so I walked up to her and asked her if she would like one, and she said yes, and she actually wore it while she spoke in the courtroom. So, I know there's people, guilters, who try and make fun of me and say that I claim that I'm BFFs with Zellner. I never once claimed that. I will reach out to her on things, or she reaches out to me on things. She doesn't always answer me. I'm nothing to Kathleen, and I know that. No, I don't know her. I met her for, a few seconds, and, she knows who I am. Since I'm involved in 3 of her cases that I advocate for the families. So, because I am the admin of the Kent Pellegrini Facebook page, and I'm also his spokesperson for his lawyers, to his lawyers, because the way Kathleen Zellner has her phone system set up, because she gets a lot of threats, that when you call her, you have to push 1 for this, blah, blah, blah. So inmates can't contact her now, because inmates can't dial out. So now when Kent wants to talk to his lawyers, he calls me, and then I call the lawyer. So they can, because lawyers can call the client. And then the Melissa Kaluzinski, I'm a moderator on that page. And so I visit both Sorry, now people are going to take that and run with it. I visit both Melissa and Kent in prison, and I go to their hearings. So, but like in Kent's case, Kathleen isn't in court for Kent's hearings. That's Doug. You see Doug in Making a Murderer 2 as so like Kathleen is sitting in his office and he's sitting behind the desk and Kathleen's talking to him. That's Doug. So Doug is the one that argues on Kent's behalf. But Kathleen argues for both Melissa and Stephen. But Doug is there at Melissa's. He's second chair. Jenna says, what are your thoughts on Ryan saying he last saw Teresa wearing cowgirl Halloween costume? Yeah, I've heard that, that was said before, that he saw her at a Halloween party. It was kind of a weird relationship. I don't, that we don't know for sure what was going on there. Where you have, him saying they were friends, but then you're having Thomas Pierce say that she didn't want to go to a wedding or go photograph a wedding because Ryan was going to be there. And that he was also saying like Ryan was stalking her. So, so did he just see her at the party or were they there together? Or not together, but they're not minding one another. Andrea says, who do I think killed Teresa? I think Bobby Dassey killed Teresa. Kimberly, can you tell us the best way to help Dolores and Alan? I know that one of the other pages sells Avery Savage hoodies, etc., but some people have suggested that they aren't really receiving that money. And we just went over this. I did a live the other night on Stephen Avery Project, the public page. We have pinned posts here and on the Stephen Avery Project page. I have talked with Stephen and I have talked with Kathleen. And then I've also talked with Carla Chase, Stephen's niece, whom, if you've been around this page a while, you know Carla and I pretty much hate one another. But the last time I talked to Stephen, he said that he wanted there to be the negativity between the pages to stop. So I told him to have Carla give me a call if she would like to discuss it. And she did. She called me Thursday night because I was at work. So I remember. So Carla and I discussed it. She knows my problems with the various GoFundMes and all that bullshit. Sorry. Hey! Stop it. Sorry, my dogs are idiots. So y'all know my issues with the money and wanting to make sure it goes to the right places. Stephen has given clearance. Hey, stop. So the salvage yard hoodies, you can buy those. Those are going to the salvage yard. They're going to Earl. Earl says that the family members that have been being sketchy with money don't have access to it. And so it will help the salvage yard. And I know Carla told me in the 4 days that they were promoting it, they had raised $1,500 that, that was the family's portion of, and then when we listed it on Stephen Avery Project, even within 24 hours, they got another $1,500. So, because Stephen Avery Project, the public page, is the biggest Making a Murderer page there is. And it is public, not a closed group. So anybody can go on it. You don't have to like it to be there. But the people that like it, we're like over 150,000 now, I think. I don't remember. I'm really bad with the numbers. And so salvage yard, yes, you can buy the stuff from the salvage yard, but only at the link that we have listed, because I think there's somebody else that's trying to scam it too and saying it's salvage yard. So we do have a pinned post that has the link in there. If you are out of the states, there is also a way you can contact that local business and arrange payment through them. So by email or by phone, so you don't have to pay those international fees. So that's way number one, you can help them. Option number two is you can send a gift card written to Dolores at the salvage yard, because Dolores's address is the same as the salvage yard's address, which is, I believe, 12390 Avery Road, Two Rivers, Wisconsin, 54 something something something. So send her either a Walmart card or just a straight up Visa card that she can spend anywhere. Sending just a Visa card would be your best option because, she's got medical bills, obviously. She's got prescription bills. So this way she can use the money to pay anywhere. There will be no GoFundMe. So I know it's easier for somebody to just donate online to a GoFundMe or a PayPal, but that's not happening. So send a card or a check if you still have checks to Dolores at the salvage yard, but write it out to Dolores. Option number three that we have on there is you can donate to Stephen's canteen directly. So the information on how to do that is also listed in that post. And it's also, I made it a note on Steven Avery Project public page. So if you're on the Steven Avery Project page, just click on notes and you'll be able to find it easily. And all this is listed in there. And then the final option is go to the Kathleen T. Zellner.com, I believe it is. And that's where you can donate for his defense. And Kathleen does also put money in his canteen when needed. So those are the only acceptable ways to donate money. I don't care what other pages you see things or who you think is running them. These ones are the only approved ones. So I know there are a lot of groups out there, and I know Stephen has said he wants the negativity between groups to end, but there are still groups out there that are doing nasty stuff. So I won't go into who's doing what and just tell you only direct your money the way that we have listed. All right, sorry, I rambled on for that for a while. Ooh, yeah, okay. There's people saying that the white Jeep is in Colburn's driveway. And then somebody saying Ryan Hilgas owned a white Jeep. Laura says, I'm a psychic medium and I cannot sense Teresa on the other side at all. It makes me wonder if she could be alive. A lot of people think that because there is nothing that says she is dead other than nobody has seen her since then. Or at least nobody has come forward saying they've seen her. But I know a lot of people get very offended if somebody suggests that she's alive, including lawyers. Okay, people responding to each other. BB asking me, who do you think the killer is? I already said, but it's Bobby Dassey. Tiffany says, do you know if the owner of the vehicles being posted in Auto Trader need to match the name of the person they are meeting for a photo shoot appointment? Just curious if that explains why it was under Barb's name, or why didn't Barb keep the appointment? It was listed under Barb's name because that's what the title is in. But Barb did not need to be there, and that's why Barb was going to be at work, and Stephen works at the salvage yard. So it's easier for Stephen to be able to meet her there when she's stopping there. Plus, if you look at Stephen's phone records, you see that while he was waiting for Teresa to arrive around that time, he was making calls to his then girlfriend, Jody's lawyer, and because he was supposed to be picking Jody up that afternoon and taking her to her outpatient alcohol class. So he was finding out from them on, okay, now it was canceled for whatever reason. And some people have said that makes it look more of a setup too, that Stephen was supposed to go get Jody and take her to her class, and now it was canceled to make him available to be, around if somebody was trying to set him up. Emma says, what do you make of the interview with Bobby before the one shown in Making a Murderer 1-2? Which interview? The one that you can read the transcript of? Because I just think Bobby's a liar from start to finish. BB says, I've been putting money in the last couple days. I know any little bit will help. Absolutely, BB. This is something that I say all the time, because like even in this group, we've increased in numbers since part 2 came out. We're over 5,000 people. If just everybody gave $5, it adds up, So it's easier for people to give $5, So, and that's what I try to push in for Melissa Kaluzinski. They do have a GoFundMe, and it is the only GoFundMe that I approve of. If you Google Kaluzinski GoFundMe, you'll find it. But if everybody just gave that $5, it would help them tremendously. BB says, I reached out to Psychic Nova. She may do another reading for us since she was pretty dead on with her last reading. Interesting. Kathy says, what in the world has happened to Jody? Why is she now saying horrible things about Steven? Makes me sick. Maybe she's in trouble with another DUI. I think she was just arrested recently on another one. I remember somebody posting something about that. And it just seems that women try to use Steven for what they can get. And when they can't get it, then they turn against him for whatever reason. Because Jody clearly knows Steven's not guilty. She was on the phone with him twice that evening. She knows he's not guilty. Hold on. I'm closing those so they don't distract me. I'm sorry, now that I'm eating candy. Perry says, have any 2018 Wisconsin governor candidates spoken out about the case? Not that I believe, or not that I've heard. Anybody here on here from Wisconsin that can elaborate on that? I've been focused on my Illinois races, that because I work for 3 different campaigns. And one of the campaigns, I'm working for 2 of their offices, so that's 4 different campaigns. So I'm kind of campaigned out right now with 8 days to go. So yeah, any Wisconsin people, speak up if any of your candidates have said anything about this case. BB says, I would like to go to the scene myself as I have some abilities. I could pick up feelings and images. I've really been thinking about it. The only thing I'll say to that is they're not a tourist stop. I know people and some family members have tried to use it for everybody come here, but these are private people. So, don't infringe on them. I mean, you can do the thing of going to the salvage yard right at Avery Road and 147 where the big sign is and take your picture there. But don't just go walking around on their property. Or you could go now, another place you could go is over to that Chris Road on that cul-de-sac. You can go look there if you're just interested in seeing stuff from it. Anne says, where can I watch other cases that Kathleen has worked on? Well, Dream Killer is on the Ryan Ferguson case, and that is on the ID channel on demand. And then the Melissa Kaluzinski case is on YouTube. 48 Hours with Erin Moriarty has covered her case twice. The first one's called Blaming Melissa, and the second one is The Fight for Melissa. That was done a couple years later. So I know you can see those 2 cases there. I'm not sure if there's any other cases of Kathleen's that has something that you can watch it. Christy says, what about Ryan saying he saw her in, answered that one already. Marion Calvin says, whatever officer was the one that said he was only bagging the evidence is the one that 2 officers gave a sworn affidavit as to him being the one who found the key, not Link, like they said in court. Link found the key, or planted the key and then found the key. At least 1, if not 2 officers also gave sworn affidavits that the key was found on November 7th or 8th, whatever day they said in court. Their affidavit said it was found the other day. Yeah, it's all stupid. The whole key thing. Why is Lincoln Colburn in that room? That should kick it out of evidence automatically right there. They should never have even been in that room. BB says, wasn't there another ex-boyfriend that was calling her a lot? Yeah, that was it Brad something with a C? Yeah, well, here's the thing. People don't like when you do this because they think that you're talking ill of the dead. Teresa had a lot of boyfriends. And so like even her roommate, Scott Blodorn, she would have sex with him. He was, it was a friends with benefits type of thing. So they would occasionally have sex. She would do those boudoir shots or whatever you call them. And so she took photographs of a married couple, and then eventually it became they were a threesome, and then eventually the guy dumped his wife for Teresa. So there's a lot of different guys in the picture. I'm not saying anything negatively on Teresa on that. I've always stood by. She was a single girl, and do what you want. But it's also showing that, there's all these men and their mates that should have been investigated more than they were. Deborah says, is there truth to the fact she was seeing a married or soon to be divorced man? Yes, I just said that. Yeah, she didn't break up the marriage because, they had agreed to have a threesome. But that's what happens. Marcy says, why do you and Carla hate one another? Mm-hmm. All right, well, this is the gossip group, so this is where I can go over stuff like this. Carla and I were initially friends. Carla has been to my home. I have been to Carla's home. I was organizing the first Manitowoc June rally. There were some other people that were organizing it with me, which meant they did nothing and they just wanted their name stamped on it because they want to look at me. So one girl was being extremely difficult. I had to contact the Wisconsin ACLU because I had initially contacted the Manitowoc Sheriff's Department to find out if we needed a permit and those kinds of things. And they came back with wanting me to get a permit for like $2,000. I can't remember the number. And I told them, no, it is my constitutional right for peaceful assembly. And they said no. And I said, well, no, I can just be on the sidewalk and I don't need a permit at all. I only need a permit to go on courthouse property, but sidewalk is public. And so we'll just stay on the sidewalk. And then they said, no, we own the sidewalk. And I said, no, you don't. And they said, yeah, we do. So then I contacted the Wisconsin ACLU. And so then ACLU took it from there. And so now the Sheriff's Department had to go through the ACLU to talk to me. And so the ACLU also told them they wanted all correspondence, all messages. Anytime that Manitowoc Sheriff's Department mentioned my name, they have to turn that over. And so then it was agreed upon that the rally would just stay on the public property and no permit was needed at all, and it cost nothing. So I had been working on all of that, and then I was working with the police liaison, which again, remember, the Sheriff's Department and the police department are two different entities, and the police were great. So me dealing with the Manitowoc Police Department, there was no issue. It's the sheriff's department, go figure, that was causing the problem. So in talking to the police department, one of the girls that I was supposed to be working with got all bitchy. Oh wait, no, that's not what set her off. It was press. Press is what ended up doing it. It was one of Carla's friends who was butting her nose into it, even though she had nothing to do with it, had started reaching out to press to try and get press attention for it. And so then she messaged me and the two other girls to ask for our information so she could pass on to press. And so the two of us gave her our information. And then the one girl flipped out saying, "It's me, I'm the boss, and press is me, and this is my event," and wham, and threw a fit. And this isn't the first time that girl had thrown a fit. She had thrown fits many times throughout this whole process, where then she would quit and say she's not doing it at all, and then she was back on, and then she would quit, and I don't know. So then the girl told me I can't be there now, that I would not be able to be at the event, that this was her event. And so, sorry, I'm getting distracted by personal messages. So then I was talking to Carla about it. And Carla said that she could pull rank if she wanted to and cancel the whole thing, or tell us, what we're going to do. And to that I said, no, you can't. You're not the boss of me. I don't need to listen to you for anything. I've organized this from start to finish. And at that point too, I was the admin of, which I still am. I'm the admin of Free Brendan, and I had regular dealings with lawyers and all. I don't need Carla for anything. She names herself the family spokesperson. She named herself that. The family didn't choose her for that. So I told her that no, she's not going to tell me what to do. And so this was three or 4 days before the rally. And so the next morning I am woken up to a message from my partner from Free Brendan, because it was us at Free Brendan who wrote the petition for the juvenile interrogation protection law that Barb has nicknamed the Barb Todick law. So even if you go to that petition and look on the bottom, you'll see it is still monitored by Injustice Anywhere in Free Brendan. That is actually our petition that, whatever. So somebody else had originally started that petition, but they did it completely wrong. And they live out of the country, and nobody in the United States is going to care about a petition written by somebody outside of the country. So we had them let us change the wording of that petition. And then eventually that girl asked us to take her off the petition. She didn't want to be a part of it anymore. So anyway, getting back to, then I wake up to messages from my partner to say that we are now locked out of the petition, that it was the original girl who'd been gone off this petition for 7 months or so, 7-8 months. Since she's the one that originally did it, she was able to do file for a recovery password and get back in, which this girl is too dumb to know how to do that. So this was Carla's people that got her to do that. So so they got back into that petition, locked us out, and then Carla reached out to my partner and told him I'm a thief and I steal money. So, which is hilarious, because my partner at Free Brendan, who is from Injustice Anywhere, I've known him since high school. And his wife grew up behind me, so I've known his wife since I was like 5 years old. So he kind of knows me. It's not a Facebook know me. So it was hilarious that then Carla reached out to him. So this was within 24 hours of me telling her that, no, you're not going to tell me what I'm doing with this rally that I've organized. And then things have snowballed from there. And I think I've gone in enough on that right now. There's way more, but that's what started it. Jenna says the Halloween party was supposed to be Halloween night, the day she disappeared. That's why I find it weird he said that. She never made it to the Halloween party. How did he see her in the costume is what I'm wondering about. No, there was a Halloween party the Saturday before it. So, and I believe it was a Halloween party / like it was a birthday party for her grandpa or something that Ryan came to. Mike says, why wasn't it brought up that there's a car crusher there? It was brought up. Why would he try to hide it instead of crush it? I think they're innocent. Well, the defense so the car crusher was there. Car crusher is not owned by the Avery Salvage Yard. It's something they get from time to time from another place. And the defense to that is you can't just crush a car. You have to gut it first. You take out stuff that you can part it out. So the defense is that Stephen doesn't have enough time to crush it without being noticed that he's crushing it. And so that's why it would have been hidden at the salvage yard to do at a later time. But Stephen wouldn't put it at the salvage yard and then go, okay, I'm going to set a branch like right here and this here, and I'm going to park it going the opposite way of all the other cars, and I'm going to double park it so it really sticks out. Yeah, so that was all dumb. And also he goes to Crivets. So if I have this car that I can't crush it right now because there's family all around. So, instead of me staying here to crush this car when they all go to Crivets for the weekend, I'm going to go too. Just leave that car. Patricia says, by Scott marrying Bob, does it stop her from testifying against him? It means you don't have to. They can't make you testify against your spouse, but she can still choose to. Mike says, wish I lived there. I'd help his parents out with free labor. Yeah. Sorry, I'm still eating candy. So I'm a rude talker with my mouth full. Andrea says, I feel bad for Mom, Pa Avery. If you see them, give them a hug from me. I will be buying a sweatshirt and a couple other things from site. Love what you're doing. Well, thank you, Andrea, for buying stuff to help the family. Phoebe can't wait to get her shirt and hoodie. Kathy says, GoFundMe takes a pretty big chunk of money out. Not worth it. Right, Kathy, and that's something that actually Paul Kaluzinski has mentioned with the GoFundMe, because he talks about that chunk that's taken out and people don't realize that. So that's when he's also told me they have this Walmart store thing that somebody could go into, the Walmart in your area and tell them you want to send money to the Walmart in the other area, and then the people can go there and get the money, and then there's no fees for that. I haven't done that, so I don't know all that you need to know to do that, but Paul has told me to suggest people do the Walmart thing for them, so then they're not whacked with a fee for it. Laura says, can we send them pantry or home goods, paper towels, laundry, soap, etc.? Yes, Laura, that's another thing with Walmart that I know there's been somebody on here who has talked about doing it, that you can place an order for items from Walmart and have it delivered directly to the salvage yard. But the only issue with that is like somebody sent her Campbell's chicken with star soup, which yay yum, but that's high in sodium. So you want things that she can actually eat, so she can't have a lot of salt and she can't have a lot of sugar. So when I talked to Carla the other night, and I do have a message, I Facebook messaged Earl, we're not Facebook friends, and so he hasn't even read it. And I wanted to call Dolores. I do have Dolores's phone number, but I don't want to bother her with her procedure. But I see today she was going to visit Stephen. So maybe I can give her a call. And I talked to Stephen about it too, of we need a list of things that are her staple items. So we can get her for sure what she wants or needs. Instead of people just assuming what she wants. Patricia says, was Scott due for questioning when they married? Well, Scott had been questioned a couple times. So, I don't know where this all, where the timing fits in. Ashley says, crap, I just tuned in. Has Jack's addressed to Chuck and Earl stuff that's been circulating all day because I was hoping to get her insight on that. What? Oh, I haven't read any of it, Ashley, because I was working. I would see stuff come up and that the people were arguing about it. And somebody has since left the group due to it. And this is stuff that I remember hearing about back when I first started looking into the case, but now don't remember it. But yes, Chuck and Earl do have records, but I'm not sure what it all entailed and what is true and what isn't. So I haven't looked into that. I know somebody is researching that right now. So maybe that will get all cleared up on what is true and what is false. Okay, people are fine. Kevin says, I'm in Canada. Is there an election for governor next month? In a couple days. Is any of the candidates you think if elected would pardon Stephen and Brendan? Well, the governor they have, Scott Walker, is a Republican. And he said upon taking office that he would never pardon anybody. It's not a Stephen or Brendan thing. He says he believes in the system, and if you're found guilty, you're guilty. So he won't pardon anybody. But and I don't even remember who the Democrat is that is running against him. No, because now I'm confusing it with the Ryan dude. Paul Ryan, is that his name? I can't keep track. So I don't recall who it is, but it's no matter who is running against Scott Walker, he won't pardon them. So you might as well see what will happen with the other one. But again, I would prefer somebody from Wisconsin speak out on that because I don't know. BB says, what did Stephen see her seeing last if Ryan seen her wearing a Halloween outfit? Ryan saw her the Saturday before in the Halloween outfit. Kelly says, did they do luminol testing of any kind in the garage or bedroom? Or was that a cover-up too? Okay, sorry. Thanks, Christy. I'll look into that. There has been, well, no. I think they have done stuff only because they were trying to find stuff that would implicate Stephen further. So it being his house and his garage, or the house and garage he was renting, because it was really Raleigh Johnson's house and garage. They trying to find Stephen's blood or some evidence that Brendan had been somewhere. But, they didn't go all out on any of that because they're just trying to prove Stephen guilty, and they knew they weren't going to find Teresa's blood there. Laura says, please message me when you have a chance. Maybe we can do a live psychic feed here on the page answering questions. I do live feeds on my own page all the time. This could be people asking whatever they want pertaining to only this issue. Interesting, Laura. Thank you for the offer. I say interesting a lot. And Heather says, I asked earlier last week, but I didn't get an answer. Is there a way to watch both trials in full? Was it recorded? I'm not sure, but you may be able to look into like the Wisconsin news stations, if any of them have, but Stephen's case took a while. So I don't know if you can see it all. And obviously the documentarians have it all, but they've never released it. So, but that's what I would do. I would start Googling the Wisconsin news stations and seeing if they have it, or looking it up on YouTube and seeing if maybe the news station has uploaded it there. Laura says, I live in Wisconsin and have heard nothing about the case from either one of them. Okay. Thank you, Laura, for letting us know that the candidates aren't talking about Stephen. Brandy says, where was the last ping on her cell phone? In the same area that Bobby's phone pinged, over there by Chris Road. Christy says, do we know for sure that is the RAV4 or a planted one? I think we know for sure that that's Teresa's RAV. You know, I know people keep going off of the color, you know, blue, green, but I think the confusion on the color is because it's one of those colors that the car can look one color in this light or from this direction and another color the other way, because my vehicle's like that. I have a Ford that the color is called, I believe, Patriot Blue, but most people think my car is black. And it's like this, it's got like sparkles in it, you know, so it's like this blue sparkle, but you can only see it in this one light and you can't see it in the other, and it just looks black. So I think that's why people keep thinking there's multiple RAV4, because there's a blue one, there's a green one. Natasha says, clearly, at least to me, she wouldn't have been carrying around the key that was found. The key had no fob. Yep. If you had a key to use on a regular basis with a fob, why would you carry around the spare? Correct. And we talked about this before. You can read Thomas Pierce's testimony, who was her boss at the photography studio, as well as a friend of hers that she had gone on a vacation with not that long before she went missing. And both talk about Teresa having a fear of losing her keys. So if that's the case, she would not have multiple key rings. She would have one key ring with all of it on, because why is she going to have to try and keep track of multiple sets of keys? And we all know that that's her valet key, not the engine key. Ashley says, P.S. Is that a glow-in-the-dark pillow in the background? It's so bright. Oh, this one there? No, it's one of those. It's got the sequins on it. So if you rub it this way, it's one color, and you go that way, it's another color. So it's kind of a mermaid-looking thing. So, yeah, it does look kind of glowing. Jenna says, okay, I thought it was on Halloween night. Sorry I had that wrong, but thanks for answering me. No apologies needed, because you had me thinking too, going, wait, was there? Because, you know, there's so much to remember. So, yeah, no worries on that. Brandy said, Teresa's mom said she didn't attend a party on Saturday because she was with the family for the grandfather's party. So, yeah, I thought she was at some party ahead of time that Ryan was at, and that he saw the cowgirl thing. I don't know. I guess, you know, somebody look into that and find where it's in the documents. Will says, hi, so the coroner, why was she kept away? Why didn't she go above county sheriff department? And before I answer this is a thing that I want to say to the old timers that are here, because as you can see, I'm asked the same questions over and over and over again. a lot of times in the group or on the page or whatever, people who have been around the case for 3 years now get annoyed because they're like, that's old news. But I realize there's new people that come here every day, who have watched it for the first time. They haven't done all the research we have. They don't know all that we have. So there's no reason to get upset when somebody's repeating something that's already been discussed before. So it's better to, when people don't know, you just, tell them. So, Will, the reason why the coroner was not allowed on the salvage property is because they knew, as I always say, she wouldn't play ball. There's a case that had happened shortly before that, the Ricky Hochstetler case. Sorry, I just keep getting work messages about Joe Biden. And if you don't like Joe Biden, I'm sorry, but yeah, I'm doing an event with Joe Biden on Wednesday. Anyway, so where was I? Oh, so Ricky was walking home at night and he was hit and the person drove off. Then it was reported. Sheriff's department had been at a party at a bar. Somebody responds to the scene, driving really fast, and they run Ricky over again, who had been laying on the road. And when the coroner got there, she was told to make sure she put in her report that the boy was already dead before they hit him the second time. And she responded with, if that's what the evidence shows, that's what my report will reflect. So now when they're trying to frame Stephen for this, they know damn well if she comes on the property, she's not going to lie for them. So that's why they're going to keep her off. Why didn't she go above them? Fear. Because look what they've done to Stephen. And then there's people who think that the sheriff's department are the ones that actually killed Teresa. So even if you have that thought that maybe they could have been part of this murder, she's just one woman. And I know there's people that get angry with her and say she should have done something. She did testify. They didn't let the jury see it. They didn't admit it, but she did what she could. I don't blame her for being scared. I don't. And I feel very sad for her because that's who you need as a coroner. You need somebody who's not going to just follow that blue line. They're there to work for the victim, to find what happened to the victim. So just like Stephen says, go where the evidence takes you. Stephen doesn't care what direction it goes in, if it's a family member or if it's not a family member. He's going to go wherever the evidence is showing, and whoever did it is the one that should be punished, regardless of who it is. And this was a coroner who would do that, regardless of if it was a sheriff that ran Ricky over and was the cause of his death. She would tell you that. So it's a shame that, Wisconsin doesn't have her in office. Janet says, you know what? Do you know if the rest of the Averys and Dasseys believe Bobby and Scott killed Teresa? I don't talk to anybody in the Dassey family. Back when I used to talk to the Dasseys, that's when I believed that somebody else was the killer at that time. And I was friends with Barb and Scott. So nobody was saying Scott or Bobby at that time. When I talked to Chuck back then, that was never a discussion. And the only person I've talked to from the Avery family since is Dolores. And Dolores seems to be way out of the loop. She's not on the internet. So I was talking to her about Bobby, that it was in Kathleen's filing that it was Bobby, and she seemed surprised by that. She seems pretty set that it's Scott. So yeah, so I don't know what anybody really thinks. Kathy says, yes, Walmart to Walmart is a flat fee of $8. Thank you very much, Kathy. Good information. Natasha says, just because you have a record doesn't make you a murderer. Correct. You know, just like what we say in Stephen's case, when people want to refer to what he did to his cousin Sandra Morris by pointing the unloaded rifle at her when she was spreading around town that he's masturbating on a street as she drives by and having sex with his wife out in the street. When that's crazy talk. Or the whole cat thing that Stephen took the blame for somebody else who actually did it, but Stephen was there when it happened and didn't do anything to prevent it. So that's not cool at all, but that doesn't mean he killed Teresa. BB says, do you think if we all were to write to the U.S. Supreme Court that it would help bring some more attention to both cases? No. I know that Stephen Drizzen, one of Brendan's lawyers, has told me before, back when I used to be the official Facebook page for Brendan, he really didn't want people reaching out to judges and stuff like that. That could hurt the case. And I know that from going to Brendan's, Kent's, and Melissa's court cases. I'm told very specific things when you're going in there that you don't want to do such and such because it'll piss the judge off and then they'll rule against you. So like even for Kent's favorite color is baby blue. And so I made these, baby blue ribbons that I passed out to the family that was there, and then we were told to make sure that we weren't wearing them in the courtroom because it'll piss the judge off. So don't write to the Supreme Court on it. I understand wanting to. I'm an activist. I've organized I don't know how many protests, right? In the last couple of years, but you have to think about what's going to be best. Oh my God, I just said be best. Be the best for Stephen and Brendan. So doing that is not good for their cases. So don't do it, please. And Amy's on. Hey, Amy, you've probably been on a while because I'm still 122 comments behind here. Did they test Stephen's clothes for gun residue? I don't know. That's a good question. Because I know they went and collected Brendan's jeans to go, oh, look, there's bleach on them. Like that meant, yep, he was trying to clean up blood because he's, lives at a junkyard and has bleach on his jeans. Laura says, Evers is running against Walker. He is not a good person, in my opinion. It's a no-win for me. I like Walker for personal reason. Don't like he won't pardon. Evers is a hot mess. No-win situation. I live in Wisconsin. I hear ya. Nathan says, do you think there is any more evidence to be found at the salvage yard or not? Well, Kathleen has said that she has tested the Dassey, I guess you call it the Dassey garage. So where the theory is that Bobby did something with Teresa in that garage. Cut her up, basically dressed her like a deer. So some testing has been done there, and they say that they can still find it this many years later. So yeah, I think there is still stuff to be found, and Kathleen may have found it already. We don't know everything she has yet. She hasn't shown all her cards. So it's a stay tuned kind of thing. BB says, did they test the key to see if it was the valet key or the key to start the engine? It's obvious, BB. There's a picture online, something, if you Google image the RAV4 key and valet key, you will see how completely different the two keys look, how the shape of it is. So you don't have to do a test to know. You just look at it and you can tell it's a completely different key. Like in the old days before we had fobs and all that, and you had one key for your engine and one key for your trunk. that kind of thing, where one's round and one's more like triangular looking. Kathy says there were reports that the dash metal VIN plate was tampered with for the RAV4. Oh, I haven't heard that. I'm thinking of license plate, that the license plate was moved and thrown in another vehicle. So I don't know about the changed VIN. Sam says the color teal, it's blue and it's green together. That's why some people see more blue, some people see more green. It's all okay. Yep. Julia says, if Pratt said Teresa was not killed in the trailer, then why are they holding Brendan for his confession? Because if you slit someone's throat, I'm pretty sure they would die. And Brendan said they killed her in the trailer. Well, no, Brendan said they cut her hair, they punched her face, cut her hair, stabbed her in the stomach, slit her throat, but she still wouldn't die. And then they brought her out to the garage, and then she was shot in the garage. So that's the story they get from what they prosecuted Brendan on. Stevens is nothing in the trailer, just shoot in the garage. So I don't get how two men could be tried for the same crime but totally different circumstances by the same prosecutor. Doesn't make any sense to me at all. Ashley says, if all else fails, I'm just going to run for governor next term so I can pardon Stephen Brendan. Well, thank you, Ashley. You have my support. I'm actually a field organizer in politics. Look me up and I'll help you. Sam says, oh, it's the same one on the teal. Luann says, I have many sites for Stephen and Brendan. It's too much. Too many of the same questions. Which sites do you recommend to keep? Well, of course, it's just going to be Stephen Avery Project and MAM Gossip. I actually don't go to any other sites because we cover it all here. So I don't care about any of the other ones. So, you know, people will send me screenshots from all the other ones on anything of importance that's in there, but I don't follow any, none. I just follow this. So that's all I will recommend is Stephen. So we have Stephen Avery Project page, which is the public one that we just keep about the case. We don't really go into too much. Then there's the Stephen Avery Project group where you can get a little more into the case and stuff. And then we started this one, MAM Gossip, because this is where we can be all out, talk about this case. And it also opens us up that we can talk about Kathleen Zellner's other cases. Because on Stephen Avery Project, if I discuss Melissa Kaluzinski or Kent Pellegrini, people will get upset and they don't want to hear about it. Or even Brendan, you know, because it's called Stephen Avery Project. They just want to hear about Stephen. And that's what Stephen wants too, actually. And sorry, I know I move a lot when I talk. I can't sit still. Stephen wants the page to be only about Stephen, not to include Brendan at all. So I don't put too much Brendan stuff on Stephen Avery Project. So Free Brendan is where I put a lot of the Brendan stuff. So you can follow Free Brendan. And then we have Justice for Brendan as well to be our more in-depth Brendan group. So Sam says, thank you, Jax, for answering my questions when I was a newbie. You helped me a lot. Now I'm a know-it-all. Yeah. I highly recommend, though, I tell everyone that if you're new to the case, go to StephenAveryProject.org, just org, and go read all the documents and see all the evidence for yourself. Don't just listen to what I have to say or what anybody has to say. That's what I did, is that when Making a Murderer Part 1 came out, I knew nothing about the case. I knew nothing about Making a Murderer because I watched it the weekend it came out, because my boyfriend is he does snow plowing as a side business thing. And so weather was bad and he was gone and I'm not going to go out and drive in that. So what can I binge? So I watched it and then I became obsessed. And, so even if you go to StephenAveryCase.org and then you look at the, I can't remember what they call it, like donators or something like that, you'll see my name on there because they were looking for money. They did a crowdsourcing thing on collecting money because the person, Skip Top, who started that, needed help paying for all these items that they were getting. And so I donated money to that because I wanted to read it and see it all for myself. I don't want somebody to tell me what happened in their words. I want to see the stuff myself. And so I always tell people, do that too. So go look and see the stuff for yourself. Heather says, born and bred in Bidentown. Oh, nice. Well, yeah, Joe is coming here Wednesday and is doing a rally event for one of the candidates that I'm working for. So that should be interesting. Bibi says, I can't believe Ryan and Teresa's brother lied about going into the crime scene when the documents say they signed in. Yeah, so Ryan Hilgas and Mike Halbach and Scott Blodorn were all in and out of that salvage yard. We have the pictures posted from a while ago, So that's something else you could do when I tell you go to StephenAveryCase.org. Go through all the pictures that we have in MAM Gossip as well as the Stephen Avery Project page, because we have a lot of this evidence is up there. Oh, that's the same question. That's the same thing. Bibi says there has to be blood evidence somewhere. They should check the foundry where Scott works. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you'd be able to find anything there now due to, what they do there, but. Christina says, you know if anyone has spoken to Brad Dassey, Barb's stepson. Does anyone know his opinion on the matter? Well, I've been told recently that he made up with Barb. I don't know if that's true. And if that is true, and Brad, you're watching this, I'm disappointed in you. Brad has always spoken up that Barb had asked him to wipe her computer and that was shady. And he said it back before this was a famous case, so that's a big deal for him to stand up and do that. So he's been consistently shit on by the family and cut off from Brendan because of it, because Barb owns the keys to Brendan. So that's why Brendan's dad, Pete Dassey's got to kiss her ass, because if he makes her angry, she will make it so he won't be able to see Brendan anymore. So she's even got Pete Dassey to turn against his son, Brad. Even though Brad has never said anything bad about his dad ever and has fought and argued people in his dad's behalf. But now people are telling me that he's now kissed up to Barb. So I don't know what's going on there now. People replying to each other. Natasha says, I believe if there's any evidence left to find there, Kathleen will find it. She's ruthless and will leave no stone unturned. I agree. Heather says, side note, love the color of your nails, Jax. I don't know if you can quite see it, but for my job, we had a masquerade ball this past Saturday night, and I had worked the reception desk for it. And so my masquerade mask was peacock. So I told them to do my nails peacock color. So can't really tell, but it's purple and or blue with some purple and some glittery things. So, supposed to be kind of peacockish. Christina says, haha, I hope KZ has unearthed some pictures of Kratz and cross-dressing in his wife's dresses, high heels, and makeup. Well, now, Christina, you're going to make me put on my work hat. I work for the Human Rights Campaign, which is an LGBTQ rights organization. So, joking about trans people, not cool. I'm not ripping on you at all, Christina. I understand what you're saying. But it is something, that I have to educate people on in being an ally to the LGBT community. So, Natasha, in part two, it seemed to me as though Dolores and Barb weren't speaking. Further towards the end, they were. Anything behind that? Yeah, they don't like each other. Barb has not had a good relationship with her parents, and I don't know how long. So, a lot of them in the family don't like each other and then tolerate each other when they have. This is not the close-knit family that you think. So, but even when I talk to Steven and he'll be talking to me about certain family members and saying bad things about them, underneath it all, he'll go, but they're family. So, and I think that's also why some of them have manipulated him the way they have, because they know how strong he is. He seems to be the only one that is so strong in, this is my family. So it's, yeah, I'm not going to go into that, but yeah, so it's not a good relationship, and I don't think it ever will be, Natasha, between Dolores and Barb. And Scott has a lot to do with that. Everybody hates Scott. Amy says, I would love to see Dr. Phil get Brendan and Scott on with his lie detector test expert. Also, the cops involved. I know you have said lie detectors can be false, but I believe his are damn good. Don't believe anything, Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil is a hack. He's not even a doctor. He's a made-up doctor for TV. And he tricked Steven and screwed Steven over really, really bad. I am not a fan of Dr. Phil whatsoever. He's known in the industry to be horrible, and the episodes he did on Steven and how they tricked Steven to call in infuriates me. And right now, the Kaluzinski family is in talks with the Dr. Phil show to do Melissa's story on there, where they've even asked me to go on it. I argue with Paul, and Paul could be watching this at some point too. So Paul knows that I've argued with him on don't trust Dr. Phil, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. But Paul just really wants to get Melissa's case out there, and believes Dr. Phil would be the way, and that since we'd be going on with a full panel of people that will be there to speak on Melissa's innocence, that there would be nothing that Dr. Phil could do to screw over Melissa. But I said he absolutely could. He could have the Kaluzinski panel on, and then another day film people that are going to call Melissa a baby killer. And then when the episode comes out, it's all together in one. So you wouldn't know it until you watch it. So I'm really worried about Melissa's case going on Dr. Phil. And so that would be like the main reason that I would be there, because I'm going to be the one that's going to jump on his face like a spider monkey if anything nasty is said about Melissa. And but so far there's nothing locked up on that. It's just been talking with producers and all that. So no, we don't want them on Dr. Phil. They can go talk to Erin Moriarty at 48 Hours. She's treated Melissa very fairly. BB says, so how are they saying Steven killed her? Just shot her outside, never went in his house with her? Well, it conflicts, because they tried to say that, they can prove Teresa was in his house because of the Auto Trader magazine was set there by the computer, but that doesn't prove she's in there. But bottom line is, they're saying she was shot in the garage because that's where the magic bullet was found, in a dusty garage, but no dust on the bullet months and months later. So, yeah. They say Steven. And, Steven wasn't prosecuted. He was not on rape. And he was found not guilty on mutilating a body. So, people replying to each other. Kathy says, do you think Barb knows that Bobby and Scott did this and she's just sacrificing Brendan because of his IQ? I go back and forth. And if she truly knows, or I think either way she knows. She's got to suspect. So either she knows and she thought originally that, yes, Brendan can be the sacrificial lamb to protect Bobby because she thought he'd be tried as a juvenile and be out in 2 years. Or she's shutting off the partner brain that's telling her this is Bobby and Scott because she just doesn't want to believe it. So I do not think that Barb was an active party in this, but she did give them permission to question Brendan without anybody in the room, and that's out of pure laziness. Or they also, what the sheriff's department used on her is Barb had just recently been busted with a huge quantity of pot, which was Scott's pot that she had, and so she got that little trade. You let us do this, and we're not going to prosecute you for that. So, but yeah, she knows one way or another. I don't think Barb at the end of all this is the evil party. Even in her, I know I get mad at times and really go off on Barb, but she was one of the only family members that was visiting Steven the first time and the second time prior to making a murderer. I have no doubt her love for Brendan. I have no doubt her love for any of her boys. But just what is going on with the whole Scott thing. Scott beat up her 2 other sons, Blaine and Brian, and threw them out of the house. And she just sat by and let that happen. I'm sorry, no man's going to come between me and my son. I only have one child, a son who is 25. And if I were with a man that my son didn't like or had issues with, it's not going to happen. My son is my priority. So, yeah, she knows, but just has anybody confessed to her and told her the details? I don't know. Christina says, maybe it's just for show. Brad kissing up to Barb. Ugh, she's just evil. Yeah. I guess Brad would do it too because he just wants to be in the fold. And so, and have a connection to Brendan, and Barb's that key. Kathy says, or maybe she thought Brendan was more likely to be found not guilty versus Bobby. Yes. Sean says, how does his lawyer get paid? Kathleen is a pro bono on Steven's case, so Steven doesn't pay her anything, but they do take donations from supporters because this does cost money. And yet, so, I don't frown upon people wanting to donate money for Steven's defense. Kathleen shouldn't have to pay for all of this out of her pocket. It doesn't matter how much money she's won in cases previously. So if people want to donate to Kathleen, go for it. It helps. Christy says, this morning Brad tweeted that he doesn't know how Barb is doing and that he doesn't care. He doesn't talk to her and he doesn't want to. Good to hear, Christy. Thank you. Ashley said, side note, I made a decal from my car saying free Steven and Brendan. And some lady at the grocery store thought they were my cousins because I guess that's pretty normal where I live. Totally told them they were and asked her to watch Doc on Netflix, free my cousins and them. Love that. BB says, does Mama Avery talk to Brendan? No, she does not. Julie says, where is Stephen's children and do they support him? Stephen doesn't really have any contact with any of his children. There was one daughter, Jennifer, that he used to talk to, but she's got a family now, so I don't think he really talks to her much anymore either. Sean says, oh, same question. And the same question again. Natasha, Dr. Phil is a tool. Sorry, not sorry. I concur. Christina, I completely understand, Jax. It was all in good fun at him, never against the LGBT family. Thank you, Christina. I appreciate that. Okay, people are replying to each other, so I skip. Carrie says, they jackhammered the garage the day before the bullet was found, apparently. No jackhammer dust on the bullet. Thank you, Carrie. And Carrie is somebody who, Carrie is, if you didn't know, and I don't, a lot of times I don't say who the moderators are at Stephen Avery Project, because sometimes, people just, they don't want to be known because people, the hatred that Amy and I get. But Carrie is one of the moderators for Stephen Avery Project and here at Making a Murderer Gossip, MAM Gossip. And she was with Stephen Avery Project before I was. So, and she has researched this case to death. So, Carrie is definitely somebody, if you ever have a question or whatever too, you can tag her and stuff and have Carrie answer you. Marlene, this is off topic, but I love your tattoos. Thank you. I actually, well, I'll show you. I know I've shown this before. I'm in shorts today, so you can see that. Since I'm in comfy clothes here. Let me see if I can do this. So, there's my Brendan tattoo. Can you see it? Nope, I gotta turn this way. There we go. I'm really bad at this. See? So I have a Brendan tattoo. Whoops. I actually have a tattoo appointment for November 1st, but I have to work now since the election is November 6th, so I can't do it. And I have said, I have the Brendan tattoo. I should get a Stephen tattoo on that leg. And then my arms are all flowers and bugs. Flowers represent females in my family or friends, and bugs are males. Melee says, thanks for standing with the LGBTQ community. You have a firm supporter here as well. Thank you very much. Gemma says, do I know if Brendan believes that Scott and Bobby killed Teresa? Okay, do I know if Brendan... Brendan's cut off from the world, and the only people that he's able to talk to are the ones, again, his mother holds the key. So nobody's going to tell Brendan anything that Barb won't let him be told. So he probably knows next to nothing. Kathy says, I don't think Barb is evil, but she's certainly a half-wit. Yeah. Oh, I see Daniel Cassidy has joined. Hey, Dan. Dan, somebody that I know in real life, and he has a band called The Fold. So Google The Fold and go see some of the songs that he's done. And then his band, he and his brother also did the theme music for that Ninja Go-Go show. So Dan is a very talented musician. And I used to run a summer festival, and his band was always one of the highlights. So actually, Dan, if you're here and listening to me, would your band do a fundraiser for Stephen Avery? If I organized it, would your band play for free? And we do, a door. Are you even still in Illinois? Were you moving out of Illinois? So maybe we can't do that. All right. Well, sorry, often personal thing right there with Dan Cassidy. Kathy says, and she's way guilty of choosing any man over the welfare of her kids. I agree with that one. Melee says, I view Barb as broken. How much can a mother take? Yeah, I mean, from part one, when you see her going to her car after he was found guilty, that's painful to watch, especially if you're a mother, because she does love Brendan, so that had to have been so hard. Okay, Julia says, I assume they used the chapstick they retrieved to put on the bullet. Yes, they found, because when testing it, they found a waxy residue. Correct. That is the theory. Roll says, I would love to see you on Dr. Phil addressing his behavior against Stephen in the show with Lynn, but it would probably be cut by the director. Oh, I would so go off on him, because I know, and I've talked to Stephen about that, on how they tricked him. Oh, it really, Stephen's gone through enough, and Dr. Phil, okay. I need to stop thinking about Dr. Phil. Brandy, I thought that after Zellner gets Stephen out, she will get a percentage of his wrongful imprisonment compensation. Yes, she will, but just even if she frees him, it doesn't mean that she'll win that. And you also don't know how long it's going to take before she gets that. So her representation now is all pro bono. That will be a whole separate case and fight, and however long that's going to take. Because even look in Stephen's first case, he was only free 2 years, and so he was free for 2 years, and depositions were just starting when the Teresa Hallback case began. So, so that's things I've had to say to people before too, that they're like, oh, why are we going to donate money to Stephen? When he gets out, he's going to be rich. There's no get out of jail millionaire card. You don't have to fight to get that. And and again, our legal process is so stupid and so long, so he was living at one point in an ice shanty because he had nowhere to live. So, yeah, but she does get a percentage if they win money. Yes. And that's standard for most lawyers on anything. Castley says, when does he have another court date? There is no court date as of now. Kathleen is due to file for him in the appeals on December 20th. Arlena says, wow, that's so cool. Love that Brendan tattoo. Well, this Brendan tattoo is me, Amy, and Barb all have the same tattoo on our thigh. This Brendan logo was a logo that was Amy's idea and design, and then my boyfriend is the one that made it. And we still use that design for Justice for Brendan. When Barb kicked us out of her Brendan page, we told them they were no longer allowed to use this logo, because it is actually, since my boyfriend owns a print shop and everything, so if he designs something at his print shop, it becomes his intellectual property. So even like when you watch, my boyfriend was so incensed when he watched part 2, because everything you see in there is stuff that he printed. So every shirt that you're seeing, Barb and Scott and Carla and Carla's husband and Al and all them wearing, the signs, the everything, my boyfriend printed and was not paid for. Yet at times when these people were going all evil against me, they're calling us thieves. Even the sign that says Avery property, so not the one out at 147, the one if you drive off of 147 and you get to the salvage yard, and if you go right, you're going to go towards what is now Chuck's house, but at that time was Chuck and then our Barb and Steven's trailers, or left takes you into the yard and where the office is and where Dolores's trailer is. There's a sign there that is saying this is private property, this way, don't go this way. My boyfriend made them that sign. So and that's what, so every episode he's like, oh, look, more stuff I made. And then people like to say I tried to steal money. So Castley says, I'm new. Well, welcome to MAM Gossip. Jane says, hello from England. Myself and my husband have been following MAM since 2015. My husband is a retired lawyer and can't believe the injustice that Stephen and Brendan have received. He thinks the case against them would have been thrown out of court over here. Yeah, Jane, I've heard a lot from people from over there on how, you guys actually look out for juveniles there and don't allow juveniles to be questioned like they are here. It is so horrible. Yeah, so we really need to take a page out of your book and add that into our legal system. And Cassie says hello from Iowa and hello from Illinois. Greg says, let's hold the judge accountable also because he let the circus happen in the courtroom. Yeah, I concur. People. Ashley, do the charity event, Dan, in all caps. But I forgot he may have moved out of Illinois. But Dan, if you come back visiting family and such, we can schedule it for that. And if you get the plain white tees, Dan, to do it too, I'll be your best friend. Castley says, can anyone see me? I see you, Castley. Can you hear me? It takes me a while because I go off and speaking on people's things. So, Castley, where I'm at currently, when I just read yours, can anyone see me? There's 198 comments below. So I don't get to your posts in real time because there's so much there. That's why I also try to skip over when people are just replying to each other or if people are just saying hi, because I've been on for an hour and 37 minutes. So I've already been on for an hour and 37 minutes and I'm not getting to everybody's stuff. And then at a certain point, I'm just going to call it a night and I don't get to everybody's stuff. So I try to get through what I can. More replies. Phoebe says, I think it's terrible. A lot of these women are trying to take advantage of Stephen to get fame. It's crushing to me because, so people accuse me of that. And I'll tell you, for people that are new, my first phone conversation with Stephen was, I'm not looking to date you. No offense. I have no interest in Stephen romantically. I fully expect once he's free that I'll never hear from him again. He's going to go off and live his life. And that's fine. I'm not here to be his friend and I'm not here to be a life companion or anything like that. I'm here because I see an injustice and I want to help it if I can. So it really bothers me when you see these women who really are just in it because, look at what Lynn Hartman, now she got to be on part 2 and that's all she cared. She doesn't care that she comes off looking like, the gold digging whore that she is. She just wanted to be on TV. And so she says there, I knew if there was another season, I'd be on as his girlfriend. Pathetic. That is pathetic. I don't know how she lives with herself on what she did and continues to do, since she likes to still post all the time. Some bullshit. Oh, one of my dogs is snoring really funny. Tiffany says, there is Brendan, Brian, Bobby, and Blaine, and Brad is half brother. I believe that's how it goes. Are you talking about what their ages are or just in general? Because age-wise, it goes Brian, Bobby, well, Brad would be first, the half-brother, and then it's Brian, Bobby, Blaine, Brendan. Jennifer says, what is the name of the Brendan page? Can I ask? Which Brendan page? If you're talking about the one that I do, it's called Free Brendan. So all the posts you see on Free Brendan, I make. I'm the admin of that. But it's owned by Injustice Anywhere. Oh, hold on. This one I have to answer this. This is my boyfriend. I said I would check with you to see if you wanted it. Okay, sorry about that. That's about my tattoo appointment. Actually, it's my boyfriend asking if I canceled my tattoo appointment for Thursday, and I said no. I had said to my tattoo guy, maybe my boyfriend will want the appointment since I can't go. Um. Okay, so where was I? Marlena, when they get out of prison, we all need to throw them a huge party. Oh, there'll be multiple parties. You know, because there'll be parties that some people will be able to go to and not everybody, and blah blah blah. John says, how was Len even allowed to represent Brendan in the first place? He's beyond a crook because he was a public defender, you know, or, you know, so, and that's what we've talked about before is, you know, I know they do if you can't afford an attorney, one will be, what's the wording? If somebody give me the wording on that. Sorry, now I'm distracted by that. But bottom line, he's working for the state, you know, so he's going to be his loyal, and that's who's paying him. The state's paying him. So it's awful when you need to have a public defender. And not all public offenders are like that. There are plenty of good public defenders who are doing it for the right reasons, that they want to help defend these people who can't afford the good attorneys. But Len was one of the bad ones, and he's just doing what the state told him. Horrible. Maley says, Jax, thank you for doing this. I'm a fairly new member, and you are okay. I'm not reading the rest because I feel weird when I read stuff when people are saying nice things to me. But I do appreciate the complimentary comments. Replies. One that, thank you, Kathy, for your nice post. Tiffany, just in general, there are so many of them, LOL. I just learned Blaine existed the other day. So confusing with all the B names. I agree. And Blaine is the one, Blaine and his wife were the first people to actually start a Facebook page when Making a Murderer came out. So they started it. And then Stephen Avery Project is the second oldest. Curtis Bussey, who started this page, started it right away too. Tiffany says, and Pete is married to Steve's ex-wife, correct? Yes. Pete Gassy is married to Lori, Stephen's ex-wife, and has raised Stephen's kids. Thank you, Sean. Appointed. One will be appointed for you, and Maley, and Kelly, and Angie. John, I was first. Ooh. Why am I all the way down to the bottom when it was telling me before I had like 190 something comments and I'm all the way at the bottom? Okay. BB says, this is sadly such a long process. They have waited so many years. I know, and that's where, okay, now I'll tell you again, go vote. You know, I'm not pushing you who to vote for, but I am telling you that you need to be looking at who's your governor, who's your attorney general, who's running as your judges, and see where they stand on these things. You know, so the election, November 6th, here in Illinois, early voting's going on right now. So and I voted 2 weeks ago when early voting first started. So, and another tip I tell people about voting, if you go early vote, you know how people like me are really annoying and we're coming to your door and we're calling you and you're getting all that junk mail? As soon as you vote, you get pulled off the rolls because we don't care about you anymore. You have voted. So you won't get any calls anymore. Nobody's going to come to your house and you're not going to get any mail except for mail that was already en route, as long as people are updating their systems. So look into that. You know, if you don't go vote in midterms, because typically midterms doesn't have a high turnout rate, go do it. These are governors, attorney generals, judges, you know, so go vote out these crooked people. Christy says, did Scott and Ryan have bad pasta with girlfriend's wife? I'm going to guess there's a typo in that. Have bad past? with Scott and Brian. Christy, please tell me what that is. Hold on, now I have to, oh no, I don't. Okay, I thought the dog was begging me to go out. San says, how does Stephen feel about his brother raising his kids? It's his ex-brother-in-law. He hasn't said anything to me about it. We haven't talked about it. I try to when I talk to Stephen. I don't want to talk about something that's going to depress him. So I've never, I don't try to talk to him about his kids because that's awful that he's lost his kids in this. So I don't want to bring up that sore subject. Gemma says it's nearly 1 a.m., but always love watching you live. Oh, thank you, Gemma. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's so hard with the constant time change, and I've done, or not time change, but you know what I'm saying. So and I am so bad with numbers. So if somebody could tell me if there's a time that works better for everybody to do. So like when I started this tonight at 6 p.m. my time, I could do it earlier if that works better in people's schedules, so I could do it like 2 hours earlier, if that would be better at 4 p.m. I don't know. I don't know what's best time for the majority. Replies. Christy says, didn't Ryan and Scott both have bad pasts? Okay, that's what that with relationships with girlfriends. There's been some things about Ryan Hilgas had girlfriends report him, and Scott's been, restraining order and everything, abuse of a girlfriend. And then he's got 2 or 3 wives before Barb that I think some of those didn't go so well. So, yeah. And then it's also been said that Scott has abused his mother, threw his mother against a wall. San says, oh, that's right. He's not his brother, but he's his ex-brother-in-law, correct? Correct, because Barb is Stephen's sister. Pete used to be married to Barb, and now Pete is married to Lori, Stephen's ex-wife. Beck says, hey, Jax, I wanted to ask if we write to Stephen, do we need to provide a return envelope with a stamp on it? No, you can't do that. Because the thing about prison is they're all out to make money. So they want Stephen, if he's to write to you back, to have to pay the prison to send that back out. I know with Brendan, back when we did things with Brendan, we were able to buy through the prison stamped envelopes for him to use. And I haven't looked into Stephen's stuff to see if we can do that for Stephen. So, sorry, here comes one. So perhaps that's something we should look into, if you can do that for Stephen. But actually, no, don't do that for Stephen. It would be a waste because Stephen really doesn't write many people back. He doesn't have time, and he doesn't like writing to people, and he gets burned. So don't waste your money on trying to get him a stamped envelope so he can write you back. Kathy says Ryan and Scott have a skeeved relationship with each other. Their body language is just off. Well, I don't think it was a relationship with each other. I think it's because they both know that they planted the RAV4. So it's because they're guilty and trying to cover stuff up. Mel asked me, do I live in Wisconsin? Oh, Maylee. No, I'm in Illinois. I'm in a Chicago suburb. So, but the yard is like 2.5 hours from me. So not that far away. Taylor, any opinion on the Bobby back scratches? Yep. I believe they're from Teresa Hudak, not a dog like he says. Kathy, notice how Teresa only mentioned her sisters and parents in her video. Strange, but not a word about her brothers. Maybe an oversight, but my idea, and I noticed it immediately. I did too, but the thing with that video is it's edited. So I'm not sure all that's in there. But the video seems very odd to me in general. You know, and again, not trying to speak badly of Teresa, but it just seemed weird. And I know it's been said it was like an assignment or something, but I don't know. It just seems weird. Roll says, for me, it's past midnight currently. Yeah, it's 10 to 8 p.m. here for me. And we'll be ending this at 8, so 10 more minutes to go. Natasha says, this is a great time for me. Evie says, what is your theory of what happened? My theory is close to what Kathleen's reenactment is. If you have not seen Kathleen's reenactment, we have had it posted in here, or you can Google it, Kathleen Zellner reenactment. It's on YouTube. And it's what I've been saying for a while, is that Bobby got Teresa to pull over for a hustle shot, and that Bobby's responsible for her death. And that I didn't know if Scott, I've never thought that Scott was a part of the murder. I've always thought he was part of the cover-up. So, but I do not try to figure out what they then did to Teresa, because there's no evidence of that. You know, so I'm not going to say they raped her or stabbed her or shot her or any of that stuff, because I don't know what they did. I just know Teresa's never been seen again. So, and in my opinion, Bobby was the last person with her, and that Bobby is the one that is responsible for Teresa being gone. Alyssa says, are you close with any of the family? No, I am not. I talk to Stephen on the phone whenever Stephen wants to call me. I have gone and visited Dolores one time, and another time when I was at the salvage yard. When I was doing the video, if you've seen it, where I was down by where the red van had been parked, and I'm standing in a bright orange shirt and I'm holding a camera. And then my boyfriend is down by the mailboxes, which is the bus stop. And so, because one thing that's always bothered me is I know that the bus driver testified on the defense side, but I still have always said there's no way possible that she would be able to see Teresa taking pictures of that van, that you cannot see that from the bus stop. And so in that video, first he is zoomed in on me, and then he zooms out, so you see it from what you would see from that distance, and you can't tell that I have an orange shirt on, nothing. So there's no way the bus driver saw that. But so from there, I was walking back down to the mailboxes where everybody else that I was with was at, and Dolores pulled up on her golf cart, and I chatted with her there, because this was prior to the Manitowoc rally that I had organized. And I was talking to Dolores because she said Stephen really wanted her to come to the rally, but she didn't want to go. But Stephen really wanted her to go, so she would do it for Stephen. But then she said she can't really walk. And I told her I'll rent her a chair and we can push her in the chair. And, you know, so, but that was the extent of it. Again, you know, so 5 minutes maybe. So no, I wouldn't say I'm close to anybody in the family. Once upon a time, I was friends with Carla, like I said. Carla's been to my house. I've been to hers. I was friends with Barb. I've been to Barb and Scott's home. I've talked with Chuck. I've never met Earl. And I've never met Alan. All right, Kathy. Not Ryan and Scott, Ryan and Teresa's brother. Oops. Yeah, no, I knew what you were saying, because that is creepy to me, the way they were standing there in that you knew something wasn't right there. But that's where now I feel they know the police planted the RAV4. And so they're trying to cover up that they're doing this search party and they knew where the car was the whole time. BB, apparently there is an inmate taking advantage of Brendan. Yes, that has happened to Brendan on occasion. And this is why, too, when I've argued in the past about donating money and people just want to throw all this money in their commissary accounts, and I've told people, no, commissary accounts get taken advantage of and inmates will steal from them. And both Brendan and Stephen, nobody ever talks about how Stephen has a low IQ as well. They both have low IQs and they both can be taken advantage of. And then in Brendan's case, this is something back when Amy and I were representing Brendan. Amy was the Dassey Todic spokesperson, and she was the admin of Barb's group. And Amy then brought me on as a moderator of that group. But Brendan had named Free Brendan, the page that I was the admin, as his official Facebook page because Barb had a group and I had the public page. We didn't talk about this, but yes, Brendan does have, at least back then, somebody at the prison who would write his letters back to the supporters for him because Brendan didn't want to write. So if you got a letter, chances are if you got a letter that was by a typewriter, that wasn't Brendan. That was somebody, another inmate writing it on his behalf. If you got a handwritten letter, then that was Brendan writing it to you. And so I did see people are worried that this other inmate now has access to your information. What I knew at that time is that inmate was okay and was taking care of Brendan, would like try and get him to work out and stuff. But I haven't spoken to Brendan in a while, so I don't know what the situation is there currently. Kelly said, did Stephen's mother testify at the trial for Stephen, saying she dropped his mail off after Teresa left his property? I can't remember. I don't think Dolores testified. I don't recall that. Sean said, why do prisoners have to make collect calls? It further monetarily victimizes the family. Yeah. So, yeah, when Stephen calls me, or when anybody calls me, I have to accept the call, but I have to put money on an account. And then now it's even set up where I'll get a text telling me that I'm low on my account, and do I want to add more money on it? Beck says, what day of the week is it where you are, Jax? It's Monday. So right now it is Monday, October 29th, 7:57 p.m. Gemma says, thanks, Jax. Anytime suits me, LOL. I would stay up till 3 a.m. if needed. Beck says, I'm from New Zealand and it's 1:51 p.m. Tuesday. Aha. Roll says, Scott got secret messages from Sweaty Sweat Sweat during his trial. Scott, shut the fuck up about this. There was something Sweaty Sweat Sweat didn't want him to tell. I really want to know what that was. Yeah, I know. A lot of people have said you can see Kratz doing things when people were on the stand. I don't doubt it. But I guess as long as his hands are above the table, right? Since he's such a deviant. Okay, more replies. And now I'm down to the bottom. Natasha says, have Brendan's lawyers ever pushed for official testing of any deficit other than his IQ? I don't believe so. But I could be wrong on that. So, all right, 7:58, and I'm down to the bottom of this. So I'm going to end it now. Another 2 hours of me yammering away. I don't know. I never know when I'm going to be on here live next. It always depends on, if something's going on. So I do try to give notice of when it will be. And then I'm never sure if I'm going to be in here in the closed gossip group or if I'll go from the SAP public page so more people can view it. Roll says you need a good night rest. Yeah, that's not going to happen for me till after the election. Oh, sorry, God. So anyway, thank you everybody for joining me tonight. Make sure you find our pinned post or note on how you can donate if you want to. We're not saying you have to, so please don't try and point fingers at me that I'm trying to make money. That's for if you want to throw money at the Avery family, this is where you can do it. So please write to them. And then on my personal ask, look up the Melissa Kaluzinski case. And if you can donate something, this is the only time I'll ask you for money, is because the Kaluzinski family really needs the money for their visits to Melissa. They really can't afford to go. So look up Kaluzinski, Kalusinski, Kaluzinski GoFundMe, and give them $5, something, so they can go see her. Melissa's really depressed right now since her case has been extended. So, all right, we are at 8:00 on the dot, and I'm out. Thank you, everybody. Free Stephen, free Brendan.